do everything thing. Mm. There we go. Good evening. This is a perfect song. I do everything. Everything, everything, thing. I do everything, thing. I could talk about me being a mama. If you a mama, we talking about being a mama. If you a daddy, we talking about you being a daddy. If you a mammy, we talking about you being a mammy. Alright? But really, caretaker guilt discussion going down. I'm gonna let a couple people get in. If you made it here tonight, thank you so much for joining me in this discussion. You're here for a purpose and a reason. I'm here for a purpose and a reason, and I'm so glad that we get to sit in our purpose and our reasons together. All right. So, real quick, I posted a poll on my Instagram, my Insta stories, and my Facebook stories asking, like, do you feel mom guilt? And out of both Instagram and Facebook, I had like over 90%. When I first posted that, it said 87. It went up because more people had answered the call, and yeah, over 90%. On average, if you combine both platforms, over 90% of my mom friends that answered that question said yes. Yes, they have a hard time. They struggle with the feelings around guilt being a parent. If you're here, thank you for being here. I don't know why it don't show me who's here. What's up? But anyway, if you're here, thank you for being here. If you're here, it's because you are meant to be here. My shit is public for a reason, so feel free to share my shit. Anyway, over 90% of my parental friends said that they struggle with guilt in their parenting. And I think it's a really important discussion to have. It's a lot of us, over 90-something%, that's a lot of us that are experiencing guilt around our parenting. And that's too many. That's too many. That's too many of us. So real quick, let me, before we get into like the parental tea. This is Yogi Positive Energy tea. This is my favorite tea. I can just like drink it straight up with nothing in it, which is like the whole purpose of tea. Anyway, and before we get too far deep, also, I pulled a card before I got on real quick. This is the Isis Oracle deck. When I used to do Trap Kitchen, when I first started Trap Kitchen in Harrisburg, now she's one of my very, very good girlfriends, but it was like first time meeting her. I think it was the first time or the second time she gave me this deck. I had it for a long time. I lost it when I was homeless. I recently got a new one. So thank you, Ange. I love you so much, Queen. So I pulled a card before this conversation because I do that before I do a lot of things. And it just says the flower of life, which this is the picture. Very powerful. Very, very powerful looking human being with like this great bird. Looks like a hawk or something. And it says, you're entering a fertile period in your life. You are guided to think for yourself and be creative, be a creative being, and to surrender your control over to how things will manifest, and instead allow them to do so. Don't resist the change. Instead, go with the flow and let it happen. Now is the time for your blossoming. So beautiful, so beautiful. That is such a beautiful message for us to be entering this conversation with. So yeah, it's a fertile time right now. And a big part of parenting is going with the motherfucking flow, yo. These kids will have you bing, 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 all over the place. All over the place. And it becomes really overwhelming and chaotic when you try to control too much of what's going on. Like, there's certain things within your control when it comes to parenting or caretaking. There's a certain amount of things that are within your control, but there are like a lot of variables. Children are the ultimate variable. They are the ultimate variable. They're the ultimate topsy-turvy. They come into the world the way they want to come into the world when they're ready. Like, that's literally like the first lesson in parenthood, is to like really let go and go with the flow. And a lot of times, a lot of guilt can be associated when it's like, okay, I am being very rigid, I'm trying to control too much, now everybody's upset, now I'm upset. It could be guilt around your actions. It could be guilt with the context in which I had originally asked the question was like, do you feel guilty when you're relaxing and taking care of yourself? Do you experience guilt when you're like in self-care mode as a caretaker? And like 90% of my peoples was like, yes. And I hope this conversation facilitates an expansion around how you feel about yourself, so that you feel good about taking care of yourself. You feel empowered to take care of yourself. And you feel that your children are not suffering by you taking care of yourself. Like, that's the one thing that we have been fed, especially as women, through the patriarchy, through the bullshit of what the patriarchy is that we must be self-sacrificing. We must be giving all of our everything to our kids. And not that we should not be giving a lot to our children, but there is a limit to a person's capacity, one. Two, it's hard to do any job without a break, okay? Even if you punch in a clock, you get a lunch break, okay? I don't know how many times I've eaten lunch with somebody connected to my boob, or standing up, or in a corner. How many parents have been in a closet or somewhere like crevice in your household trying to like eat a snack or something because you don't want the kids to find you, okay? I know. I know. We've all been there. Those moments are really, really hard, but not taking care of yourself outside of those moments make navigating those things a lot harder. So let's just talk about like the word guilt in general, right? So like, I wrote a little notes because these conversations are important, right? Guilt, like the word guilt, the definition, it's a fact. It's a fact of you being guilty of a specific crime. Now, in this instance, what we're saying the crime is taking care of ourselves. The crime is taking a moment to ourselves. And when you really unpack that, why are we criminalizing our own self-care behavior? Why are we criminalizing our own relaxation? Why are we criminalizing our own joy? And if we really, really, really dig down deep into, like, especially because from my perspective, intersectional, I'm a mom, I am, a single parent, I am poor on paper, I am a woman of color, I am queer, you know what I'm saying? All of those things, if you really like dig down deep into it, between white supremacy and the patriarchy, we were like ingrained to believe that taking care of ourselves was sinful, that taking our bodies away from our work was taking us away from somebody else's productivity. And now we have the opportunity, our productivity is self-defined. You know what I mean? That is a privilege. I totally understand and recognize and respect the privilege that I have in order to be self-defined and being like, my energy is going towards my family. You know what I mean? My energy is going towards my children. But in order for me to serve them the best and serve our family's collective mission and our goals and our wants and our dreams and desires, a bitch gotta take care of herself. I gotta take care of myself. I am a one-person, well-oiled machine, but even a machine requires maintenance, okay? And we are not machines. We're human beings. We Heather, you're giving me so much love right now. Thank you so much. We require maintenance. You know what I mean? We require to take care of ourselves. We require our baths. We require our good food. We require our medicine. We require our water. We require our time for meditation and reflection and peace. We need that in order to be full, so that when our little cups come up to us, we can pour. Not all of us, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you know what I mean, your cup is this big and you got this much, and your kids want this much, and this is all you got left because you didn't pour into yourself. And now you're like, you gave them everything and you're empty. And one of the things that really, when we talk about guilt, especially in parenthood and what it can create and manifest, guilt can really being like, oh, I'm feeling bad for taking care of myself, so therefore I'm not taking care of myself. Now, why am I not taking care of myself? I'm not taking care of myself because I'm giving everything that I have to my kids. Now I'm resenting them. And now it's creating a really unhealthy dynamic in my home, because I'm looking at my kids like, oh, y'all the reason why I can't, blah, 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 blah. And you can. You have the ability. It might not look like, a 10-day spa vacation on the, coast of wherever. It might not look like that. It might look like, drinking a glass of water before everybody wakes up. It might look like stretching for 5 minutes. It might look like, for example, on my page, it might look like working out with your kids around you, because you know what I mean, you want to do something else during nap time. It might look like, you know what I mean, meal prepping in order for you to have some good food to eat when your kids are like, I want, in my case, vegan chicken nuggets and tater tots. That's not really what I want, but I'm not gonna fault them for that's what they want. You know what I'm saying? Also, especially in the time of Corona, hold on, my light went out. Especially now, in the time of Corona, and also, it's getting cold. If you're in Denver, if you're in Colorado, it's brick as outside right now. So it's cold. Seasons are changing rapidly. There is a pandemic virus, out here that motherfuckers is acting like they don't, it's not real. And also, every year the flu. And now you're adding guilt on top of that. Whether it's, we're talking self-care, feeling guilty during self-care, but also with all of the additional roles that have been asked in these new times that's being put on us as caretakers, where we're not meeting expectations. Okay, where we're not being productive or being as productive as we have been able to be in the past. In the past, you might have been able to hold down a full-time job and do everything. I'm so glad you are too. You might have been able to do all of those things, and now you're like, my capacity, I don't have the same capacity as I do now, because I'm also a teacher. I'm also, you know what I mean, doing all of these other things. I'm also trying to navigate my and my children's mental health. What balls are gonna be okay for you to drop? You know what I mean? I'm not saying don't pay your fucking rent, but I'm saying, if, right now, our little bookshelf library in my living room is tore up. The baby loves books. You know what I mean? So instead of me looking at that and being like, oh, that's tore up, I didn't pick that up, I'm da-da-da-da-da, now I am shaming myself and feeling guilty, when I can look at that and be like, wow, I really gave my children an opportunity to explore books, and they love to explore books, and the baby loves to explore books, and I'm really doing an okay job. And my house is clean, but that one area is a mess, because it's gonna be a mess tomorrow, and we're never done, and that's okay. You can do and be and have anything that you want. But they come in time, you know what I mean? They come in turn. And when it's babies and big kids and little kids, whatever size child you have, there's child, it's ages and stages. Okay, we were like, oh, infancy is hard, terrible twos, or whatever names people come up for kids or whatever, and their challenges. There's challenges in all of the different ages and stages. So it doesn't matter where you're at in the parenting journey. The whole, I guess, goal of this conversation is to, like, there's certain things that you're gonna drop, and that's okay. You know what I mean? You didn't commit a crime by allowing your kids to spend an extra half an hour, an extra hour on the, you know, computer games or watching whatever show. You're not failing as a human being. Today, you know where my escape was today? I went to go defrost the car, and really, I was plucking my beard in the anonymity of a snowed-on car. Because car plus sunlight plus that little visor situation with the light is the best beard situation. If you got any type of hair situation, I did my eyebrows too a little bit. If you got any type of hair situation in the car, honey, and I put the baby to sleep, and he has been binky free for over 24 hours, and this little boy was like screaming to go to sleep, and I was like, I'm gonna go shovel with the baby monitor in my pocket, and I'm gonna go sit in the car and defrost the car. And I could not feel guilty in that moment, because especially when I came back and I was able to, like, smile and play and engage with my older kids and, like, not be mad when the baby woke up, because I got, like, even if it was like this much, I got to take care of myself. Yes. And you know what I mean? I really applaud people who are, like, in partnerships, who navigate that as well. For myself, like, I can't. I can't. Because it is so much with kids, unless it's, like, real, like, water, I just can't. So big ups to you. But also, like, communicating. I really communicate my needs with my kids, because I'm a human and they're a human, and I'm trying to teach them how to respect and honor their feelings, respect and honor their space, respect and honor their boundaries with each other, with their friends, with me. So then I have to practice that same thing to them, and being like, you know, like, if they're, like, with Jackson has ASD, okay, he's on the autism spectrum, and sometimes, you know, it can be really hard, the amount of physicalness I have to have with him and the baby. So, like, I've explained to them what touched out means. I'm like I cannot right now, or I need 5 minutes. And that's okay, because they need to learn how to respect people's boundaries. There's going to be a time and a place in their lives when they're getting older, especially, you know, like, them being young men. I really want them to understand boundaries when a person, especially a woman, is like, no, I don't want you to touch me. I can't have you touching me right now. And them not having, like, this really big, hyper masculine, unhealthy ego situation where they cannot handle somebody saying, I can't have you touching me. You know what I mean? Like, I love you so much. You're so loved. You know what I mean? I will have an opportunity to give that to you another time. But right now, I really can't be hugged, especially because we are breastfeeding now into, like, the 20-somethingth month. I was not expecting to nurse this long. And it's been, you know, there's definitely challenges. Yes, honey. If you know it's time, you know it's time. And you know, divine sisterhood, you are so supported, you are so loved, you're so accepted here. All of you guys, like, all of my friends, all of my peoples, you are so loved and accepted. And if you just hit me up, we can chit chat. You need help, you need services, you need resources, let me know. We are a resource. We are a divine resource to each other. We truly are. We have the really ability and this is coming from a single mom perspective, to really come together and be a resource to one another, where it's like Like, I know that you are good at this. I'm good at this. How can we come together to meet our needs so we're not feeling guilty, so we can hold some more balls, so we're like not overextended and overwhelmed? Because a lot of like guilt and shame and overwhelm, those are like all those like lower vibrational energies. And like when we were saying earlier, was like with our immune system, the lower vibrational energies really impact our immune system, and it impacts how we like move through the world, how we feel in our bodies, the stiffness and rigidity in our bodies. I know like here, this right here, like pain right here, really indicates like stress within your responsibilities, motherhood, wounding, and all this other stuff. This is an area that I work, like body work is so. Heard the screaming? I didn't hear no screaming. Sorry, Toya is my neighbor. Girl, I know you probably heard the screaming the other day because my period started, and I'm good now, but it was hard. And I can't feel guilty about that. I can't feel guilty about that. I can be apologetic about it. I can be an example for repairing relationships. I can show my children that I am human and that sometimes we make mistakes and we're not always able to control our emotions. Like the beauty of this whole like being locked in together is, especially with my kiddos, having a little bit more freedom to express themselves, and me not having to feel guilty that I have stepped away from a lot of the parental guidance that I've had. It made an example for me, so not feeling guilty like I'm abandoning, you know what I mean, family traditions and family ties, because we have a lot of family traditions and family ties that are outside of the realms of abuse. So like, you know what I'm saying, I'm not gonna feel guilty for not doing, like having complete control over my kids. And also I'm not gonna feel guilty about having feelings when they express their feelings in a way that's like, okay, I really need to deal with how I feel about this. Because when I was little, I was not allowed to stomp my feet or show my anger or show any of my feelings. I would have got my ass beat, and I'm feeling a certain type of way because he's not getting his ass beat, and my little girl self is like, that's not fair. But really, it wasn't fair that I was getting my ass beat because I was having feelings. It would be to the point, because my mom was a bruja, you know what I mean? And I would be upset, and I would even be in control of my body and my mouth and all that stuff, and she'd be like, I know what you're thinking. I would get in trouble for my thoughts. And I cannot feel guilt or shame, because I want to be an example of being healthy. You know what I mean? I want to be an example of being loving and being kind, and that soul starts with myself. I cannot be like, I had a class with Don Blas or Halim, and he was like, we had talked about my middle child, and he was like, you have to be a walking embodiment of love. And that really has stuck with me. It's been like 2 years since he said that to me, and it really has stuck with me. And in order for me to be in a walking embodiment and a walking example of love to somebody else, I must be a walking example of love to myself. Okay? When my kids hear me talking really well about myself, like, I really love myself. I am so happy I'm experiencing this day. I'm really grateful for our home. I'm, you know, when I'm that example, they show me that behavior. When I'm an example of some fuck shit, which I can be because we're all human in duality, and me like, oh, this is some fucking bullshit, like, and I need a break, and this, and you know what my kids become an example of? Some bullshit. And then I have to deal with the behaviors and be like, I know, I'm sorry, I'm really apologize that I exampled that behavior for you. But doesn't it feel so much better when you're like in gratitude? Doesn't it kind of suck right now? Like I don't like when I do that to myself. I really love when I take really good care of myself. I really love when we're happy and having a good time. I really love when we go with the flow and like have dance parties out of nowhere, or just like hug or whatever, or snuggle, or things like that. Like if I'm showing them me guilting myself, shaming myself, putting myself down, that is gonna be their like compass of how they should navigate talking to themselves. And you know what I mean? We already have on top of us like genetic predisposition for different mental health stuff, ancestral trauma, the trauma of living through a fucking pandemic. And my kids and I together as a family, we have experienced some shit together. I'm not gonna put any more on them by feeling guilty by taking care of myself. Taking care of yourself allows your children to see themselves through a healthier lens. They're like, I'm loved, I'm taken care of, I'm supported, and my mom like is taking care of herself too. Wow, that's really great. And you know what? When I do that, when I'm like an example of taking care of myself, they give me the space, especially like my older boys. They give me the space and opportunity to take a nap. They will tell their friends like, hey, my mom really needs a break right now, and I would love it if you stop knocking on our door. I'll ask her another time. Like Didi came up to me, he was like, I could tell you really needed a rest, so I told my friend that I will wait until you're feeling a little bit better to ask you for something. And I just was like, oh my God, it made me feel so good. You know what I mean? I was like, huh, but then at first I was like, and then I was like, you know what? That is a skill that I wish more people had with that had interpersonal relationships with me, whether they were romantic or like a work type situation or whatever. Like I wish more people would be able to read somebody else's body language and be like, gauge their needs compared to somebody else's needs. That's empathy. You know what I mean? That is real, true empathy, and that's a beautiful thing to have. And by being human and tending to yourself, you allow your children to develop empathy for others. Like all kids, it gets to us, developmentally. It takes a little bit for them to get to the point where they realize they are not the center of the universe. And though they are such an important part of the family, the way we describe a family, like the way we describe family dynamic, is that we're a community, right? A family is a community, and in order for a community to work, we all have to do the things that we can do. Not that you have a job, I'm not going to be forcing you to do anything, but the things that you can do. So what children can do, they can, at this age, my big boys are like 7 and 8, so they can resolve their own conflicts. They can pick up after themselves. They can give me space when I need it. They can, entertain themselves for short periods of time. They can know that they're safe and that they're loved and that they're taken care of without having to, having attention-seeking behaviors. That is, a big thing. Like kids that don't get like enough attention on a consistent basis usually have some like behaviors that is just simply because it's like, hey, I want attention, look at me, I'm gonna get it however I'm gonna get it. And then it's like, damn, you're acting like a whole ass and I have to pay attention to you now. But back on the guilt train, let's see what else I wrote here. We talked about that, how guilt leads to resentment. Yeah, we love some my mind. We love some mama. But yeah, he is getting to that age where, you know, he can learn a little bit more like self-regulation. You know what I mean? And we did this thing where it's like 5 minutes a day, where it was like 5 minutes a day of like intentional one-on-one playtime. So it's just like, and then it was like, I don't lead the play, I don't ask any questions, I repeat a lot of what they're doing. So if it's like we're just laying on the floor and playing, you know, Jackson be like, oh, I want to play dinosaurs. Okay, so I get on the floor with him and play dinosaurs. I'm like, oh, cool, you got a green dinosaur, I got a blue dinosaur. And whatever like environment or whatever that he's in, then he is in there. And we set a timer and everything because, you know, I want to make sure that I'm fair, and they're getting to the point where they're like measuring juice and cups and shit. So it's like, okay, we got to make sure, okay, you get 5 minutes, Dee Dee gets 5 minutes. And that's not like the only time I play with them throughout the day, but they know that, okay, I know that I'm going to get at least 5 minutes of my mom to myself. And that really helps them like get themselves under control when they're really feeling antsy in their pantsy. And then, you know, because I, like we said earlier, like I have the example of telling them what I need. So it's just like, you know, mommy really needs 5 minutes. I really could use 5 minutes of just quiet and being by myself, or my, you know, my time in the morning, my morning meditations or whatever, and in the evening. And they now too are able to be like, hey mom, I'm kind of feeling like sad or whatever, you know, I really could use like extra snuggles. I'm like, okay. But sometimes I can't meet their needs right away, and then I also have to go back to like not feeling guilty about that, and then letting them know like, you know, your time will come, there's always more time, there's always more mommy, there's always more fun things to do, there's always more opportunities. So like if I can't do it right now, it's okay. Yeah, it's just hard. It's sometimes it can be, you know, a framing around how we feel about the energy that we're putting in. You know, sometimes, because I had a moment last week where I like bought Dee Dee some new sneakers or whatever, and he threw them at the TV, and I was like, so like it put me way over the edge. And my reaction was like, after I thought about it, I was like, that was dumb, because the TV didn't break, he didn't mess up his shoes, it was an accident. And we talked about, you know, like throwing stuff in the house, because, you know, Toya, we have like our whole basement is a play area, y'all can throw whatever you want down there, why are you throwing your shoes at the thing? And me reacting to what he did just made everything worse. You know what I mean? Not that a reaction wasn't warranted, but my level of reaction was not warranted. And it was because I wasn't pouring into myself. I was, you know, feeling guilty about like taking care of myself, so I wasn't doing it as much. My period was coming, and when my period is coming, like period and pregnancy, I have to take care of myself to like the end, like the most. And my period was coming, and I wasn't taking care of myself, and it all bubbled over. But then it was like, you know, after that, I had a real choice. I was like, do I continue with my behavior and how I'm feeling right now, or do I make amends and repair and let him know that I'm human and that it's okay and I'm sorry? You know what I mean? So each situation is different, but like the main thing is like not feeling bad for putting into yourself because it's necessary, you know what I mean? And not feeling bad for having feelings, because these are relationships, like they are, you know, your relationship between you and your child. So you don't want them feeling super guilty for having, you know, more needs, And then you don't want to feel super guilty about having to attend to those needs, because it'd be hard. You know what I'm saying? It'd be hard. But the more we feel bad about it, the harder it feels. The more that we feel guilt, shame, anger, resentment, you know what I mean, all those low vibing energies, the worse it feels, the harder it is, the more difficult it is to navigate the relationships. And then also when we are having, you know what I mean, like my homegirl Heather earlier was like, you know, having strain within her romantic relationship or with her partnership, having that extra added layer of negative emotions swirling around with the parental guilt or the parental shame or whatever. It's like, oh my God, next thing you know, you're swallowed up, and underneath, you know, feeling like your whole world is like on top of you. I really like that example of you know, everything you got going on, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your responsibilities, your family, your job, your life, your home, all of these things. I like to think of it like this big like sphere. You know what I mean? Like this big ball, and either it's on top of you, right, and it feels like it's crushing you, or you're on top of it and you're like feeling like, okay, I got this, I'm carrying this, I can feel the weight of this, I can feel the severity of this, I can feel the responsibility within this, but I feel my capability, I feel my level of understanding, I feel my you know, just my ability to navigate through this. I feel like he's doing all this because I've been attending to my parents more with him. Not being, yeah. You know, I feel that, and understand too that children really don't have the understanding, like the ability to be malicious. So even if their behavior is like negative behavior, they are not like maliciously doing it, and they are subconsciously doing it. They're not like, I'm gonna throw my shoe at the TV to get my mom's attention, and then she's gonna scream at me, and that's gonna feel real great, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? Like, kids don't have that capacity, that like their brains literally are not developed enough to really make those kinds of connections. So yeah, subconsciously he is probably doing stuff because, you know what I mean? And like, also with your parents getting sick, COVID, him not being able to be over there as much, you know, a lot of his life dynamics have changed, like, you know, since we've been neighbors. If you think about it, like how much his stuff has changed. So the same amount of grace that we give to ourselves is the same amount of grace we should be imparting to our children, especially now with this whole fucking corona shit. Is going to school online, you know, when you were having to work and school and all that other stuff, it's a lot for them to really process. So, you know, maybe having a talk or something, or maybe too not giving the amount of attention to his negative behaviors, if that makes sense. It's not like saying let him get away with murder and let him tear up your house or whatever, but also like the little tiny things, the little teeny tiny things. Be like, I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't see that. I'm gonna let it go, because the more we focus, because Meyer is a great kid. My neighbor has the greatest kid. Like, he be making his bed, he be cleaning up, he be, you know what I mean? He's very mannerful. He's a wonderful, wonderful child. He's very, very bright. He's super talkative. He's funny. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we really get wrapped up in the like the picking, and then it's harder to focus on like you know, the good stuff. So, and that's something that guilt does to us too. You know, when we have a lot of guilt or of what we are, or also not even guilt, but when we have a lot of responsibility, when we have a lot of responsibilities, and like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. So what it makes you become hyper vigilant. It makes you become hyper aware, where you're like seeing everything. I gotta take care of this, I gotta take care of that, I gotta take care of this, I gotta manage that behavior, I gotta make sure he's not doing this, I gotta make sure he's not doing that, and then it kind of like low-key really sucks you into this like seeing all of what's going wrong, when there's a lot that's like going well and going right, and that you guys are gonna be like totally good and okay very soon. And you're good and okay now, you know what I mean? And if you ever need to send his butt over, you just send his butt over. But yeah, let me see if there's anything else that I missed on here. Oh, here's another thing. Guilt can really put ourselves into the mode of self-punishment and self-sabotage. Just because we're parents does not mean that we no longer have dreams, ambitions, desires, wants for our life. And when you're feeling guilty in the places of where perceived you haven't shown up, it can make you see all of the other places like hyper vigilantly where you haven't shown up yet. And it's like our goals and our dreams and our manifested futures are out there, you know what I mean? And if we're sitting and looking and like, oh, I'm not there yet, I'm still here nursing and doing this and doing that and virtual learning and all this other stuff, it helps us engage in behaviors that are not healthy and don't help us get any closer to where we're at, which ends up expanding on the feeling of guilt and shame, because it's like, oh, I'm not over there yet, I'm not over there yet, I'm not over there yet, I'm still over here, I'm still over here. But it's like, okay, but you can kind of enjoy what's going on right here, right now. You know what I mean? It's different. It can be difficult. It's a lot. It's responsibility. But there's like little pockets and moments of joy that are like nestled up in there. And if you give yourself the opportunity, you can really see them and feel them, like really feel them. And when you're in those moments of like feeling those moments of joy, feeling those moments of gratitude, it helps get you closer to like where you want to be, your whole family, where you want to be individually. It helps you have the maintenance of yourself as a human being, taking better care of yourself, instead of being like, oh, I feel like shit, I'm over here with these kids, I want to do that over there, I'm not over there, oh well fuck it, I'm not over there, I might as well just be like sitting on my phone scrolling on the Facebook all day, eating bullshit, not drinking no water, not meditating or taking a walk. You know what I'm saying? They all feed into each other, and it's momentum. So the more you're feeling like shit and like hyper aware of the stuff that makes you not happy, the easier it is, the more momentum you have to like keep going in that direction. And the same is true on the other end. The more you're feeling gratitude, the more you're feeling joy, the more you're feeling appreciation, the more you're feeling satisfied in your moment right here, right now, with these fucking kids in your messy house in the middle of a pandemic, virtual learning and everything. The more you can feel gratitude in that, the easier it is to kind of slide into that future manifested self, which is you. All right, I love y'all. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I'm so glad y'all showed up. I'm gonna keep this on the timeline. I'm probably gonna save it and share it on Instagram. If you don't yet follow me on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram at Jazz Bites. It's a little bit more mature content. More of my workout videos, more of my food stuff, and everything's on there. Y'all see my stories. If y'all watch my stories, because I'll be living on my stories. There's gonna be more polls and stuff like this in the future to, you know, really open up the dialogue, the conversation, to what we are all experiencing as a collective, and help the collective elevate and expand and feel love and feel joy and feel good in this journey that we're in right now together. I'm really glad that we got to spend this time together this evening. I'm really glad that we know each other and are connected. I'm really glad that God gave me a voice. And I'm really glad if this message has touched you in any way, shape, or form. Remember, my shit is public for a reason. Like, share, comment, whatever. And most importantly, don't feel guilty. You're doing a good job. You're doing all right. You're doing better than you even know. You have more capacity and ability to do whatever the fuck you want. You can have anything you want. So I want you to focus on what you want. Love you guys. Bye.